So today I wanted to talk about rapport, which is it's a pretty big topic in the NLP community. It's something that we study, and we learn different techniques for how to get in rapport with somebody, and I'll talk about some of those. Um, but when I think about rapport, I would say it's how do you know when you're in sync with somebody, when you can understand them and feel understood, and they can feel understood. um, it's I would say rapport very often is the foundation for good communication, and yeah, really doing well with somebody. When people are out of rapport, very often they don't hear each other, and communication can sort of hit gridlock. And I think at times, uh, maybe I take it for granted a little bit, because for two reasons. One, I do think I have a pretty good ability to get into rapport with people, or we all have ability to get in rapport with people who are just like us. But I think I do have a good natural knack at that. And then with the NLP toolkit on top of that, it's not something that I have to think about a lot. That being said, I was in a couple of group interactions recently, and I noticed some of the people really being out of rapport, and it hit me, just how much better they would do if they had some of the tools that I'll share with you. So I would say some basic principles about rapport. We have a saying in NLP that people like people who are like themselves. And very often you'll notice that when people are in rapport, they'll tend to sit the same way, or they'll speak in an animated way in the same way. They may imitate each other. They might have certain phrases that they both use. And I think that's one of the keys to rapport, is kind of matching the style of whoever you're talking to. Now, one thing about that, if you're matching the style of somebody who's quite different than you, that doesn't mean that you have to become them. And it certainly doesn't mean that you have to become them forever. I look at rapport as a way of sort of hooking up with the neurology of whoever I'm talking to, so that we can both move together in a variety of places, so that we're both able to move fairly easily. So, as one of my early teachers said, it's not about setting up camp there and staying there forever. So when you talk about matching someone else, there are a number of things that we can match. We can match their posture. We can match their gestures. And posture, are they leaning one way or the other? Or do they turn their head a certain way? All those things. And it's about matching or approximating. It's not about mimicking. If you mimic somebody, it's going to feel strange, and they may look at you and think, "Why are you mimicking me?" It was funny. One time, I like to sit with my legs crossed, and one time I was talking to an NLP person, and I noticed they were crossing their legs like mine, which many people find uncomfortable. And I said, you don't have to cross your legs for us to be in rapport. But in any case, posture, and then you can also notice and match somebody's breathing. Are they breathing deeply and quickly, or are they breathing slowly? Where are they breathing? Matching voice tone and tempo. That's probably, if I were to pick one, that may be the biggest one I would pick. Is at least when I see people out of rapport, you'll get somebody who's like talking really loud, and then whoever they're talking to is speaking very quietly, and you'll notice a lack of rapport. And that's one of the things that I noticed in this meeting the other day. Is one person was just really dominating, speaking very loud, and I could see the other people in the meeting recoiling from that. So just noticing, okay, what's the general volume of the person that I'm speaking with? Do they speak quickly? Do they speak slowly? I would say quantity of words almost. Sometimes somebody speaks, is filling a lot of space and somebody else isn't saying very much, and that can lead to a lack of rapport at times. Word choice can be very important. If somebody's using very particular words and kind of leaning into them with, emphasizing them, you want to use their words as opposed to your words, or as opposed to paraphrasing. Okay, so those are some of the main things that I would look to do to increase rapport. And the way that I think about it now is I pretty much go with the assumption that I'm going to be in rapport with somebody if I want to. And these are things that I do if I notice that something seems off. So it's almost like I'll check these things if something is off in the interaction. So I'll check, like, are we speaking at the same volume? Are we both speaking quickly or slowly? So for me, it's a bit of a checklist. And I think the trick in learning this is that rather than the individual tactic, I think what people get better at, who get good at this, is they get better at noticing how the person in front of them is doing. Noticing, is the person moving with you, or are they moving in a different direction? If you're nodding, are they nodding? Or are they, kind of shutting down and you're getting more animated? So yeah, there's an idea of assuming rapport and then really paying attention and using these things if something seems off. Another really powerful way of getting rapport is to be in alignment with that person's goals or outcomes, even if they're not explicitly stated. So if I was in a meeting, I'm going to notice, what is this person that I'm talking to trying to achieve? Like, what are they trying to do in this moment? And if I can be in alignment with their outcome in such a way that they're aware that I'm trying to help them get what they want, typically that will increase rapport, sometimes even more than all the other things that I just mentioned. Like, if you use that as a baseline, that can be incredibly powerful. And sometimes in NLP class, we'll also intentionally explore, like, how do you break rapport? And if you break it, how do you get it back? So to break rapport, you would kind of do the opposite. If you notice that they're speaking quietly, you would get really loud. Or if they're very, very slow, you might all of a sudden really speed up and have a lot of words. So these are ways that you can begin to break rapport. Now, to break rapport, you actually have to shift kind of quickly, because if you're in rapport and you vary how you're doing things, if you're in rapport, very often the person will follow you. So if you're starting slow and then gradually getting quicker and quicker, very often, if you're in rapport, the person will follow you in that. So if you want to break rapport, you kind of have to change something very quickly. And then to regain rapport, you would again start matching. And another word for that we use in NLP is pacing somebody's experience, and you would pace again and again and again. Now, the thing that's interesting is this is about getting rapport. It's not about agreeing with what the person says. It's not necessarily that, they say, I like this movie, and so you have to say you like that movie. If you have strong rapport, you can actually disagree with what they're saying and still have the strength of the relationship in place. So I highly encourage you to explore these things. If you ever feel like things are a little bit, out of sync with the people around you. And I always remember this one example where one day I was hanging out with a friend and we were having lunch, and I just felt that in our conversation, we were just so at odds. And no matter what I was trying pulling out my best arguments and this and that. And it just got worse and worse. And then like this alarm went off in my head and I thought, okay, are we in rapport? And I just, little by little, I started noticing what their posture was and matching that a little bit. And then especially I started matching their breathing. And it was amazing. Like very quickly, the conversation started moving. Like we both started moving and we got past the argument or the impasse that we had in that moment. So yeah, I encourage you to try these things and hope it improves your interaction.